Hello everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Kind of wanted to start this video by saying thank you to everyone who has reached out to my wife and I during this time. Obviously, as most of you know, it's been a rough time. And the last video that I made was kind of asking for support and help because I felt like the path that we were going was a tough one. And then the next day we got hit with the bombshell that I'm losing my wife. And we found out about a week ago, and I have notes because I can't think straight, and I'm forgetting a lot of things, and I'm struggling to remember anything, and I'm struggling to keep my head on straight. So I took notes to try to remember why I'm coming on here. But from the beginning, when Jenny was diagnosed, and then when Jenny came up with the idea and shared with me that I should create a channel for the flip side of things, the caregiver side of things, this is the video that I never wanted to make. Like, this is the one that I said, I hope we never have to make that one where we start talking about end of life. And, as of right now, we are there. As most of you know from my wife's channel, our doctor, who has never ever given us a timeline, never said that it was reasonable to give a timeline. He always said, based on treatments and based on everything you guys are doing, I can't realistically give you a timeline. Finally came in on the last appointment and said, because of the LMD disease in her brain, we're looking at around 6 to 9 months. And that, obviously brought a whole world of fears, emotions, sadness, brokenness, anger, feelings of depression and fear and anxiety in my wife and I and my kids. So, the 6 to 9 months is not set in stone, and this is going to happen, and we understand that it could be less, it could be more. Obviously we're shooting for more with this new therapy and everything that we're going to try to do in the coming weeks. But we're also we're also understanding and knowing that we have to prepare our kids, and we have to prepare myself and my wife for what is to possibly come in the near future. So, trying to really put all this together and how fast things change. We always knew cancer could do that at any time, as it's proven in the past that you can go in for a scan 3 months later and everything looks amazing, and then you can go for a scan in a month and it doesn't look so good. And when you really look at the timeline of what my wife has been through in the last 2.5 years, it's pretty incredible of all that she's been able to endure and where we are at this point. When she went in and begged to be scanned and begged to be taken seriously, to then finding the cancer and switching to a different insurance and switching to a different hospital and finding the amazing City of Hope and being told that she's 3A and we can cure this and we're going to treat you and we're going to get rid of this, and then to doing an immunotherapy that almost killed her, put her in the hospital, and then the cancer spread to her brain, and then we were given that fear, and then radiation, and then chemo all over again, and then a new treatment, and then a new treatment, and then a clinical trial, and then a new treatment, and then a hospital, and then we got hit with this bombshell. And you just look back and you see all that the cancer patient and the caregiver have to go through, and the families. It is so much. And I truly, man, I just sometimes can't believe what she's gone through. But, you know, we've gone from 3A to stage 4 to now this LMD brain stuff, and it's just too much to wrap our heads around at this time. So we're doing the best we can to function. Tomorrow is a new chapter. Tomorrow we start this proton therapy that is kind of this new type of radiation therapy that they're doing in adults, and it's to the whole brain and whole spine, anywhere where there's fluid, to try to zap any of the cancer cells that are living in there. And she's going to do that for 10 sessions and hopefully do an amazing job and come out of this on the other side. And so there's the whole kind of stopping our life, and this is down in San Diego, so we're having to kind of shift everything around and figure out what we're doing with the kids, and figure out what we're doing with the start of the school year, and figure out what I'm doing with work, and figure out what we're doing with life. It's just like, it's so much. And man, it's just so much for a family to kind of have to do. And it's just too much. But we're gonna do it. And I wanted to kind of talk about, if anyone is given this timeline life where the doctor comes in and says we're looking at about this much time remaining, could be a little less, could be a little more. I think for us and for me, instantly the pressure started to build of, if this is your wife's last hurrah, then you got to make it special for her. And you got to make every day count. And you got to make every moment count. And you got to make every celebration count. And every little thing that you do has to count. And I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to make sure that everything is perfect. And I'll tell you, it's not. You know, I'm struggling today to keep it together, feeling like I'm sinking with all the things that we have to do and check off the list. And then I start to kind of beat myself up inside because, oh, today wasn't perfect. And so I feel that pressure. Nobody else is putting that pressure on me except for me. My wife is not, my kids are not, nobody is. It's just myself. And I think that's just a caregiver's curse, is we've been taking care of this loved one, you know, my best friend, the love of my life, up to this point, and now we get told this horrible thing, and I want it to be perfect for her because she deserves it. So there's the pressure with that. The amount of things that come in and you get flooded with from people when your spouse or your loved one is diagnosed with a disease that is now considered terminal. I'm so appreciative of everyone who's reached out to us and everyone who's kind of reached out to me, but I'm gonna be honest, and what I told my wife and my family is I feel like my head is spinning and I can't keep up with trying to figure out what I need to do for work, for my kids' school coming up, all the to-do lists that we need to do, the legal stuff for my wife. And then as soon as she got this news, it's been appointment after appointment after appointment after appointment. We're getting sent to a new city for 2 weeks. Man, it is just like, it just hasn't slowed down to where the really important stuff is getting pushed aside. And I'm just starting to panic. You know, when are we going to have time for bucket list items and things that we need to do on our like legal side of things. Like, it's just so much, and I feel like it's piling and piling and piling. And luckily I've had people reach out that are going to help us with some things, but I just feel like there is so much, and it's really overwhelming and scary. And today it just made me feel like I could just break down and want to go and hide. I just cannot believe how much there is to do at this stage of someone's life, when all you want to do is hug them and comfort them and not worry about anything else around. Just lay and talk and look into their eyes and just be with them in the moment. But then it's like this appointment. Oh, you got to call this person. You got to schedule this. You got to make sure you get this. And it's a lot. I do know that I have to give myself grace. I know that. My therapist told me that. People in my wife's family have told me that there's so much here. No one could handle it all alone. And I have to give myself grace, because I put a lot of my own pressure on myself to make everything perfect. And my wife reminds me that in her eyes I am perfect, so it reminds me that I'm doing okay, and I try to remind her the same, that we are both here for each other no matter what, and that's what's most important. And then my wife and I talked today about understanding that the timeline is just a suggestion. Like, even our doctor told us that we're not just going to start living our life like this is it. But we have to be realistic too. So there's a balance with that. There's a balance with understanding that there are things that we have to do, but then also saying, wait, we're gonna beat that number. We are gonna beat that number. I know my wife will beat that number, just like she's beaten every other statistic so far. I know it. So we hope that we take that 6 to 9 months and use it as a nice little goal, and we just keep going right on by. Because that's what I could easily see my wife doing, is going right on by. And then there's this unknown territory that we've just kind of entered in with the kids, where they are really, really struggling. Like, really struggling. I would say more so Winnie than Ellis right now. And you got to give her grace too, because she's going through what we're going through. She's afraid of losing her mom. And there's so many things going on in our house now that we just did not foresee happening right now, with a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. And so many questions that we don't have all the answers to. But we know that, that they have fears, I have fears, we have fears of being alone, we have fears of not having their mommy with them, but we just have to keep reminding them that no matter what, we're going to get through this. We really will. But it's scary that this is the darkest we've ever gotten with the kids. This is truly the darkest we've ever had to get with them. With cancer, with life. And they're such babies. It just does not seem fair, but we owe it to them, to be honest. But it really sucks that they have to worry about this stuff when, a typical peer their age is not worried about this stuff. They're getting ready for school, they're getting ready to go back to, the end of summer, and we have all this on our plate. So I just feel so bad for them.